Hey everyone, I'm Case Aiken, and for today's Superman Analogue, I want to talk about a strange creature of 90s comics. And in retrospect, she is so complicated to explain that it's hard to believe that she had the longevity that she did. But she was my Girl of Steel when I was getting into comics. So today, let's talk about Matrix, aka Linda Danvers, aka Supergirl. So following the John Byrne reboot of the franchise in the 80s, Superman was canonically the last Kryptonian, so the extended family he had built up was wiped away. However, in his last story before departing the book, Byrne introduced his own take on Supergirl, Matrix. Matrix was a creation of the Pocket Universe. Hey, and I am bringing it back! Which had fallen under siege to that reality's version of Zod and his allies. Their Superboy had died in the Legion of Superheroes story, so the benign Lex Luthor created a superbeing from Lana Lang. And while she was wholly artificial, she believed herself at first to be a superpowered version of Lana Lang. She recruited Superman to help fight off the super criminals, and that was its own story, but afterwards, she joined Superman in our reality, finally accepting that she was, in fact, an artificial being and not the original Lana Lang. So the Matrix entity was an artificial amorphous creation that was possessed of several superpowers, including shapeshifting so that it could look like a person, as well as strength and flight and invisibility and psychic blasts, and all of this is sounding a lot closer, frankly, to Martian Manhunter. And while the Matrix entity had some pre-programmed memories from Lana Lang, it was very naive at first, and it spent a lot of time confused about its identity while being raised up by the Kents. When the Matrix entity decided to actually go back out into the world and permanently don the identity of Supergirl, she mistook the young clone of Lex Luthor, who was masquerading as his own son at the time, to be her creator, reborn, and fell in love with him. She would go on to serve at his side, often manipulated to further his schemes. This led to her being held back in times where she could have assisted, such as the fight with Doomsday, though she later joined that fight only to find her invulnerability wanting. Fortunately, she was still just a goo person then and was able to reform herself, but it's clear that while Supergirl was impressive compared to most heroes in terms of powers, she didn't quite hold a candle to a true Kryptonian. Now, eventually, the clone Lex was revealed to have the mind of the OG Lex Luthor and to be, gasp, evil. So Supergirl, understandably, lost it. After being held back from murdering the person who had seduced her and manipulated her, she wandered about without purpose for a time. I mean, she joined the Titans, but she didn't have like a shtick besides being part of the super family at this point. And this is where we get to the Peter David run. He had the Matrix entity merge with a dying girl named Linda Danvers, which was one of the names that Kara Zor-El used as her secret identity back in the Silver Age. The fusion of these two beings stabilized them both, limiting the Matrix entity's powers, but linking it to the soul of a real person, albeit kind of a lost one. And so this fusion of artificial purity and real humanity created something special. It birthed an Earthborn Angel. Supergirl became a being of holy fire, replete with blazing wings and eyes of flame. This was not to last, despite that being the original intent. The animated Supergirl had become very popular, so this Supergirl's design was altered to match that. The fused being was split in two, and we were left to follow Danvers now, who was left with a fraction of the powers she had wielded when fully combined with Matrix, as she searched for her other half. And this is where the character really proved herself as a hero in my mind. She had the Golden Age Superman's powers while struggling with the power-creeped foes of the day. Eventually she got a power boost, but never fully merged with the Matrix side again, which had ascended as a full-on angel. The closing arc of that run was a story called Many Happy Returns, which is one of my favorites. In it, we see a version of Kara Zor-El show up, and eventually Linda takes her place in the Silver Age continuity, only to have to send her back in order to save the multiverse. However, while there, she fell in love with the Silver Age Superman, and I need to remind you that they are not related, and go on to start a family together. Side note, this version of Kara Zor-El that we saw briefly had a thing with the Con-El version of Superboy. And I need to note that at this point, the character was a human clone modified to resemble Superman, not an actual clone of Superman. I mean, I guess they're all secretly horny for each other and just hold back because of taboos, but at this time, neither of those relationships were actually weird. Anyway, this Supergirl sacrifices herself to save all the multiverse, but more importantly, her daughter, who survives somewhere on the edge of reality. This Supergirl is just as noble as the original, going on a far more complicated journey, even if it's indicated that she too survived, but has hidden herself from the public eye. She was cool and she was weird. She was the Supergirl I grew up with, and damn, was she a doozy. However, next time we're going to talk about a Supergirl who was also pretty complicated, so we'll be talking about Power Girl. But until next time, stay super, man. And this is the part where I thank you for watching this video. Thank you for staying to the end, and please do all the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, etc. Also, you should check out the podcast that goes along with this, Men of Steel. There are clips here on our YouTube channel, but you can find full episodes at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out. Great time. Anyway, thanks so much and have a great week.